Welcome to the Olive Grove podcast.
Yeah.
A place where we dig into some fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
And today we're going deep into the early church.
Okay.
We're looking specifically at Acts chapter 6.
All right.
And we're using an article from the My Christian Space website called NCS Acts chapter 6 to kind of guide us.
Sounds good.
So,
Yeah, this chapter I think is so interesting because you really get to see how, this growing faith community was dealing with challenges and, also experiencing a lot of victories.
yeah, well, and that's what I think is so cool is, this is a time when the church was exploding in numbers, right?
Yeah.
Acts 6.1 really paints this picture of just wow, this is a community is bursting at the seams with new believers.
Yeah. And even despite facing persecution.
Yeah. So what do you think fueled this kind of growth?
Yeah. It's really amazing to think about, the power of their message and the unwavering commitment of those early Christians. But, of course, this rapid expansion led to some logistical challenges. The apostles were initially responsible for pretty much everything.
Right.
And they quickly realized that they were becoming overwhelmed with administrative tasks.
So they're drowning in logistics.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And a lot of it was, centered around making sure that the widows in the community were being taken care of and that resources were being distributed fairly.
Okay, so that's where their wisdom shines through, right?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to micromanage every single thing, they kind of stepped back and they're like, okay, how do we handle this?
Right. They had to make a strategic decision, and it's actually one that's still incredibly relevant today.
Okay.
Acts 6.2-4 tells us that they actually appointed 7 individuals to oversee the distribution of resources,
Okay.
which then freed up the apostles to really focus on prayer and spreading the word.
That's Delegation 101 right there.
Exactly.
You would think that in the face of persecution, leaders would want to hold on even tighter.
Yeah, you'd think so.
But they're like, no, we trust our community. We're
Right.
going to empower them to do this.
It's about recognizing your strengths and what you are called to do.
Yeah.
And, the apostles knew that, their primary responsibility was providing spiritual leadership.
Okay.
Not necessarily, getting bogged down in the day-to-day administrative stuff.
So they're basically maximizing their impact by delegating.
Exactly. They understood the power of multiplication, equipping others to serve. And, it's a timeless principle.
Yeah, so it's they're building a strong foundation so that things can keep growing.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about one of these 7 guys that they chose to oversee the distribution of resources.
Okay.
His name is Stephen.
All right.
And Acts 6.5 and 8 describe him as this man who is just full of faith, filled with the Holy Spirit, just radiating grace and power.
Yeah, he was quite a remarkable individual.
Yeah, and he even performed miracles and signs.
He did. It's a beautiful illustration of how God can work through someone who is completely devoted to him.
Yeah.
His life was a testament to the tangible impact that faith can have.
It's like he was a walking, talking miracle.
Yeah, in a way.
But here's where things get kind of interesting.
Okay.
Despite all this good that he's doing and the power that was obviously working through him, Stephen faced some pretty fierce opposition.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that following your faith doesn't mean everything's going to be easy.
Right.
Acts 6.8-10 details how he really encountered a lot of resistance.
Okay.
Particularly from members of the Synagogue of the Freed Slaves.
Wow. So even with the Holy Spirit working through him, he's not immune to conflict?
No, not at all.
So what do you think was at the root of this opposition?
That's a good question. And, the text doesn't really give us a clear answer about their motivations.
Okay.
But, we can speculate a little bit.
Yeah.
It's possible they saw Stephen's influence as a threat.
Oh, okay.
Maybe they disagreed with his teachings, or perhaps they were even envious of the power that he had.
So it's like a reminder that even when you're doing what you believe is right,
Mm-hmm.
you might still bump into some people who aren't happy about it.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is how Stephen responded to this opposition.
Okay.
Acts 6.10 tells us that he was filled with the Holy Spirit and just unbeatable in debates.
Oh.
It really speaks to the strength and wisdom that comes from having a deep connection with the Holy Spirit.
It's like the Holy Spirit was his secret weapon.
In a way, you could say that.
Okay.
But, beyond that, what really strikes me is the audacity of his opponents.
Yeah.
Acts 6.11 reveals that they went so far as to fabricate accusations of blasphemy against Moses and God just to try to discredit him.
It's like they were throwing everything they had at him, just hoping that something would stick.
It's a powerful example of the lengths that people will go to try to silence those who challenge their beliefs or their authority.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, how do we respond to that kind of stuff when we're the ones being unjustly attacked?
Yeah, it's a timeless challenge for sure.
Like, how do we stand firm in our faith when people are just coming at us with these accusations that aren't even true?
Right? It really highlights the importance of grounding yourself in something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
But before we get too far into that, I think this might be a good time to talk a little bit about the work of Enduring Freedom Ministries.
Okay.
You know, the organization behind the My Christian Space website.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're doing incredible work helping those in need.
Yeah.
You know, really reflecting that compassionate spirit of the early church.
Exactly. And here's something really amazing. And, you know, for just $4 a month, you can actually help provide a hot meal, groceries, clothing, a haircut, even laundry services for someone who's struggling.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so we encourage you to check out the My Christian Space community and consider supporting their mission.
Yeah, definitely. Now let's get back to our deep dive into Acts chapter 6.
Okay.
And Stephen's amazing story.
Sounds good.
So we left off with him facing these false accusations.
Right. And, you know, despite all of that,
Yeah.
Acts 6.15 gives us this really incredible image. It says that despite the accusations and the trial, Stephen's face shone like that of an angel.
Wow.
It's such a striking detail.
It really is. Like, what kind of inner peace allows someone to face that kind of adversity and just have this, like, serene look on their face?
Yeah. It's a powerful testament to the transformative power of faith, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Like, he's being falsely accused facing this hostile crowd.
Right.
And yet he's described as having this, like, angelic countenance.
It's remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really is.
And, you know, it's not just about inner peace. It's also about conviction.
Okay.
You know, Stephen's angelic face, as described in Acts 6.15, wasn't a sign of passive acceptance, but of unwavering commitment to the truth.
Okay.
Remember his opponents, they accused him of speaking against the temple and the law. Essentially, they were saying that he was challenging the very core of their religious system.
Because they were so focused on the, like, outward forms of their faith.
Right. The rituals, the structures,
Yeah.
that they completely missed the deeper meaning.
It's like they were so busy defending the building and the rules.
Right. Yeah. That they forgot about what really mattered.
They lost sight of the heart of their faith.
Yeah. And it seems like that's exactly what Stephen was challenging.
Right.
This, like, blind adherence to tradition without truly understanding its essence.
Exactly. And that brings us to a point that the My Christian Space website really emphasizes. You know, even today, many churches grapple with the same tension that we see in this chapter.
Oh, wow.
This struggle to balance the practical needs of the community with the core mission of spreading the word.
It's like history repeating itself.
Right. They talk about how some church leaders become so consumed with administrative tasks that they actually neglect their calling to share the gospel.
It's like they're falling into the same trap as those who oppose Stephen.
Yeah, prioritizing the mechanics over the message.
Wow.
You know, it's a good reminder for all of us,
Yeah.
whether we're in leadership positions or not,
Right.
to really consider how we're using our gifts and talents to serve God.
Yeah.
And to share his love with others.
So it's all about finding that balance.
Yeah, right.
Meeting those practical needs, but also staying true to the heart of our faith.
Exactly. And Stephen's story really exemplifies this. You know, he was actively serving the community, distributing resources to the widows, but he never lost sight of his primary mission, which was sharing the message of Jesus.
Okay.
Even when he was facing opposition,
Yeah.
he remained a powerful witness for his faith.
It's so inspiring.
It is.
Like, it reminds us that we can make a difference even when things get tough.
Right.
Just by staying connected to our purpose
Yeah,
and
so
letting our faith shine through our actions.
Absolutely.
But before we wrap up, I wanted to go back to something we talked about earlier
Okay.
about Stephen facing those false accusations.
Mm.
And you mentioned how it makes us think about how we respond to those kind of situations.
Right.
What advice would you give to someone who's, you know, maybe being unjustly attacked or discredited because of their faith?
Yeah, that's such an important question, and unfortunately one that many people of faith face even today. I think Stephen's story offers us a few key insights.
Okay.
First and foremost, remember that you are not alone.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit is with you. He's your advocate and your source of strength.
Okay.
Just as Stephen was empowered to defend his faith, so are you.
It's like having that inner compass that keeps you grounded when the world feels chaotic.
Exactly. Secondly, focus on the truth.
Okay.
Don't get caught up in defending yourself or trying to win arguments.
Okay.
Let your actions and your character speak for themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Remember Stephen's face shone like an angel's, not because he was eloquent or argumentative,
Right.
but because his faith radiated from within.
Okay, so it's like a reminder that sometimes the most powerful witness is just living out your beliefs.
Exactly. And finally, remember that your ultimate vindication comes from God.
Oh, okay.
Don't let the opinions of others define you or your worth.
Right.
Stay true to your convictions and trust that God will honor your faithfulness.
Those are some powerful words. It's like you're saying that facing opposition with grace and integrity is its own victory.
Exactly. And I think Stephen's story really embodies that.
Yeah.
Even though he ultimately faced a tragic end, his unwavering faith left an indelible mark on the early church,
Right.
and his example continues to inspire countless others throughout history.
It's a reminder that the impact of a life lived for God goes way beyond our circumstances here on earth.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up our deep dive into Acts chapter 6, let's take a moment to recap some of the key takeaways from this incredibly rich chapter.
That's a great idea. I feel like we've uncovered so much wisdom that is just as relevant today as it was back then.
Yeah, I agree.
So what are some of the most important things we can learn from this chapter?
Well, first and foremost, we see the importance of delegation and prioritizing our core competencies.
Right.
You know, the apostles recognized that they couldn't do everything themselves,
Yeah.
and they wisely chose to focus on prayer and spreading the word.
Okay.
It's a valuable lesson for all of us as we try to balance our many responsibilities.
It's like a reminder that we don't have to do it all ourselves.
Right.
It's okay to ask for help or to delegate tasks to others
Exactly.
so we can focus on what we're uniquely called to do.
Right. Another key takeaway is the reality of facing opposition when you're living out your faith.
Yeah.
Stephen's story really shows us that even when you're doing good and following God's will, you might still encounter some resistance.
Yeah.
But it also highlights the strength and resilience that we can find in the Holy Spirit.
It's easy to get discouraged when we face those challenges.
Absolutely.
But Stephen's example reminds us to lean on the Holy Spirit for guidance and strength.
Exactly. And finally, Acts chapter 6 reminds us of the importance of staying true to our faith, even when things get tough.
Okay.
Despite the false accusations and persecution he faced, Stephen remains steadfast in his belief in Jesus.
His unwavering faith is truly inspiring.
It is.
It makes us really examine our own hearts
Yeah.
and think about how we would respond if we were in his shoes.
It's a powerful reminder that faith isn't just about outward rituals or appearances.
Right.
It's about a deep inner conviction
Yeah.
that sustains us through the challenges of life.
You know, as we reflect on these takeaways from Acts chapter 6, it's clear that this chapter offers a wealth of wisdom and inspiration for us today.
Yeah, it does. And I think it really speaks to the timeless relevance of the Bible
Right.
and the enduring power of the stories it contains.
Yeah.
Stories like Stephen's can speak to us across centuries,
Yeah.
offering us guidance and encouragement for our own faith journeys.
Speaking of journeys, I think this is a perfect time to invite our listeners to join a special journey,
Okay.
the journey of making a difference in the lives of others.
Right.
Earlier, we talked about the incredible work of Enduring Freedom Ministries
Yeah.
and their mission to help those in need. And I want to highlight a specific way that you can get involved and support their efforts.
Absolutely. For just $4 a month, you can help provide a hot meal, groceries, clothing, a haircut, and even laundry services for someone who is struggling.
Just imagine the impact we could have
I know.
if we all joined together and contributed.
Right.
So if you're feeling led to support their mission, you can find more information and make a donation on the My Christian Space website.
It's an opportunity to really live out the spirit of the early church.
Yeah.
A community that cared for its members and reached out to those in need.
And speaking of community, we want to invite you to join the growing community here at the Olive Grove Podcast.
Yes, please do.
We've had such a rich discussion today exploring Acts chapter 6 and uncovering the timeless wisdom it holds for us.
It's amazing how these ancient stories can still speak so powerfully to our lives today.
They really can, challenging us and inspiring us in equal measure.
Absolutely.
It's like we've traveled back in time, witnessed the challenges and triumphs of the early church.
Right.
And we've come back with this renewed sense of purpose for our own faith journeys.
And speaking of journeys, we've only just scratched the surface of what Acts chapter 6 has to offer.
Yeah, there's so much more to unpack.
Exactly. If you're eager to dive deeper, we highly recommend checking out the full MCS Acts chapter 6 article on the My Christian Space website.
Okay.
They offer some incredible commentary and analysis.
It's like having a guidebook to help you navigate the complexities of this chapter and uncover even more hidden treasures.
Exactly.
And while you're on the My Christian Space website, be sure to explore the amazing work of Enduring Freedom Ministries.
Yes, they truly embody the spirit of Christian service.
Yeah, reaching out to those in need with compassion and tangible support.
Their dedication to serving others is truly inspiring.
It is. And remember, for just $4 a month, you can partner with them and make a real difference in the lives of people who are struggling.
It's a beautiful way to put your faith into action.
And for those of you who love to visually explore these fascinating topics,
Yes.
we have a special invitation for you. Subscribe to the Olive Grove Podcast on YouTube for more deep dives, just like this one.
We'll be bringing these conversations to life with visuals and graphics that will help you connect with the material in a whole new way.
It's like having a front row seat to an exploration of faith, history, and culture.
Exactly. And for those of you who can't wait for the YouTube release, we have another treat for you.
Okay.
You can get early access to future episodes of the Olive Grove podcast
Wow.
by visiting the My Christian Space website.
That's awesome.
So come join us as we continue to delve into the scriptures and uncover the timeless wisdom that can guide and inspire us on our faith journeys.
We're so glad you joined us for this deep dive into Acts chapter 6.
Yes. Thank you for being here.
Until next time, keep seeking knowledge.
Keep exploring your faith.
And keep letting your light shine.
See you next time.